Heartbeats only happen one at a time, one at a time. You can't rush a moment, so don't even try, don't even try. There's a symphony you're missing. If you only listen, you'll find big magic in the mundane, the big picture in a small frame. Everything is sacred when you take time to notice. Big love happens in the small moments. Big love happens in the small moments.
Welcome back to my channel. If you are new around here, hi, my name is Sarah. I'm excited to have you today. Just a little bit of history. I am a mommy to 5. My oldest is 10 years old and my youngest is 1. And today we are going to talk about my breastfeeding journey. So with 5 kids, I have a different journey with each of them, and I'm going to go into a little bit of the details. What was different, what worked, what did I learn along the way? So if you're interested in any of that content, please be sure to keep watching. So out of my 5 kids, I breastfed one of them for 1 month, and then I breastfed the other 4 for 15 months each. So it was a totally different experience. Let's backtrack to when I had my first baby. I came from a family where no one ever nursed. It wasn't something that you really did in my hometown. It kind of just had like this bad rep. So I kind of walked into pregnancy knowing that I did want to breastfeed my baby, but I wasn't really sure if I was going to nurse or if I was going to pump. To me, in my mind, and from what I'd been told by my family that really knew nothing about nursing, they all pushed into me that I needed to know exactly how much the baby was eating. He needed to be able to take a bottle, etc., etc., etc. So what we did is we went to a birthing class that also had like a breastfeeding class built in, and I decided that instead of nursing Caleb, my oldest, I was going to exclusively pump and feed him that way. I really wanted to know exactly how many ounces he was getting. I wanted Nick to be able to give him a bottle, and for some reason in my 22-year-old mind, that seemed easier. Now, if any of you have ever like exclusively pumped, you know that it is not easier than nursing. I'm just going to put that out there right now. It's kind of like double the work. So, you know, babies generally feed in a 3-hour period. So if you factor in pumping, then bottle feeding, then cleaning the bottles, it's like basically by the time you're finished, you have like 45 minutes and you have to start all over again. But that was my plan with Caleb. So when I initially had him, he didn't latch right away, and I didn't really know how to latch him, and I didn't really use the resources that were given to me in terms of trying to get him to latch. Like when the lactation consultant came in, I told her that he wasn't latching. She offered to help, and I was like, no, I think I'm just going to pump. So that's what I went in trying to do. And for the first like 3 weeks, that was perfect because, you know, you're full for 3 weeks. You have engorgement, you have a lot of milk, and I was producing enough milk by far to feed him. But then about 3 weeks in, my milk supply started plummeting. And I mean, like, not like just going down a little bit, like it was like I was maybe getting an ounce after pumping. And he was a hungry boy, and that was not feeding him. So I had to start supplementing with formula. And it was like this back and forth, where looking back now, what I should have done is gone to the lactation consultant, and she probably would have given me a nipple shield, and he probably would have been able to latch, and my milk supply would have come back. But like I said, I was like 23 years old. Nobody really told me how to nurse. My mother-in-law did nurse, but I didn't really use her as a resource either. I kind of was just like, well, I mean, he got milk for like a month. So what I did at that point is I just went straight to formula, and he was formula fed the remainder of his infancy, which is fine. Like, I will say, as a disclaimer, he's my only child that wasn't nursed all through infancy, and if one of my kids gets sick, all of them get sick. So I see zero difference in him now as an adolescent compared to my kids that were breastfed all through their first year. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that out there. In my experience, it doesn't really matter. But when I got pregnant with my second, I knew that I wanted to be able to nurse her. One, formula was expensive. We were in our early 20s. We didn't have money. Spending like $15 on a can of formula was just like unrealistic. And then we were going to have 2 under 2 at this point. So I knew that I did not want to formula feed again, and it was my goal that this baby was going to latch and I was going to be able to nurse her. So once she was born, I did utilize the lactation consultants, like overly utilize them. They came into my room probably a good 4 or 5 times in my like 1-day hospital stay, because I wanted to make sure that I knew how to latch. I wanted to make sure that I was doing everything right. That way my milk supply would not go away and that she could effectively nurse. And everything was going great. But I will say that personally for me, the first week to 2 weeks of breastfeeding is extremely painful. I know that they say it's not supposed to be painful or it means you're doing it incorrectly, but that is not the case for all women. So if you are there, just know that your latch may be fine and it may still be painful. Like me personally, my nipples are very sensitive. They crack and they bleed, irregardless. The lactation consultants will tell me that my latch, the baby's latch is perfect, I'm doing everything right, and my nipples are still bleeding and still cracked. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and recommend a life-saving product to you. It is the Mother Love. I'm going to link its little picture right here, and I'll put it in the description box below as well. Best nipple cream you'll ever get. As soon as that baby comes out after the first time that they latch, start slathering that stuff on, and it helps so much, y'all. I'm not even going to lie. But with that being said, when my second was born, McKinley, everything was going fine, but about 4 days into nursing, my nipples were like destroyed. They were so sore. It was like almost like ravenous. And like every time she would latch, I would just like start shaking and I was crying and it hurt so bad. And I thought I was doing all these things wrong because it's not supposed to hurt. So I went back to the lactation consultant and they couldn't find anything wrong. But they did, like, she put a glove on and she put her finger inside McKinley's mouth. And when she started sucking, she was like, oh my gosh, your baby's like a piranha. She was like, this is like the strongest suck ever. And so what they did at that point is they gave me something called a nipple shield. I'll put a picture of it as well. This was my saving grace, y'all. I know now this gets a bad rep. People swear that like you could lose your milk supply. They swear that your baby won't bond as well with you, etc., etc., etc. And if you believe that, that's cool. But I'm telling you from my personal experience, it was a lifesaver. That was what made me be able to nurse my babies until 15 months. So that nipple shield, a lot of people just use it for a brief period of time and then wean off of it. McKinley would never wean off of it. So I nursed her for 15 months with the nipple shield. And a little mom hack, what I would do with it is after she was nursing, I would clean it off and I would actually put it down inside my bra, like just in between your cleavage, and it would hold it there. But then when she needed to nurse, you knew where it was and you could kind of just pull it out, clean it, stick it back in there. Just a little hack for you. So let's just talk cracked nipples for a minute while we're here, because I feel like I'm just gonna keep rambling about that because I have a lot of experience with this. Cracked nipples. You need the nipple cream. You need a nipple shield, can work if you decide to go that route. Medela makes like cooling gel pads that you can put over your nipple and it keeps it from like rubbing against like fabric on your shirt and stuff. Amazing. Another thing that is really, really good to do, and I did this with my 5th baby, was if one side gets really, really torn up, you could just pump off that side for a few days and feed off the other side just to allow your nipple to heal. Sit around with your boobs out, with like letting it get air. I don't know, you know, all the beauty of the first couple weeks of postpartum. It's really great not to have visitors at that point because I feel like I was always shirtless and I don't know, miserable. So that's cracked nipples, but all of those things are super useful. I will link those in the description box below so you guys can check those out. But let's see here. Let's go back into my breastfeeding journey. So with my 3rd and my 4th, I did the exact same thing. I used the nipple shield as well for the same exact reason. They latched perfect when they first came out and it was good for a couple days, and then my nipples were so sore that I couldn't function. Like it was to the point where like anytime they would go to latch, like I would just like cringe and I would start crying and I'm like, I don't want to do it. Like I just wanted to like scream. And it wasn't healthy for me. So I utilized the nipple shield to get through that pain, and then they basically wouldn't get off of it. But I will say, with that, there is zero nipple confusion. So I have used a binky and I have used a bottle with all of my babies from basically the time that they came out. So my goal was always to have my babies be able to take a bottle and breastfeed as well, because if I wanted to go on a girls' night, or if I needed to like go do something out of the house, or with one of my children, I was working out of the house in the evening, so a bottle was a necessity. I start introducing that young. And I know they say not to do that until they're like 6 weeks, and I don't believe that at all. I believe that with all of my kids, they did not have nipple confusion because we introduced it earlier. So that's my take on that. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I do have 5 kids that this has effectively worked for. So with my 3rd and my 4th, I used the nipple shield. My 4th, I was able to wean off of the nipple shield around, I think he was like 7 months old, and he kind of just stopped taking it and started latching, which was great. So that was good. I didn't have to worry about having it anymore. Now with my 5th, he latched from the get-go perfectly. I did have the cracked nipples, but for some reason I was like, I really don't want to use the nipple shield again. So I didn't even have one at my house. So what I did instead with him, with the cracked nipples, was the left side was really, really torn up. I used the pump for a couple of days just to let it heal. And he never really messed up my right side too bad, so I was able to effectively nurse him on that side. And then once the side was healed, we were able to go right into nursing. So with my 5th, I was bare breast, never had to use the nipple shield, and it was fine. Although I will say that I experienced some things with his nursing session that I did not experience with my other ones. So first of all, I experienced a lot more clogged ducts, and I don't know why that is. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that I wasn't using a nipple shield, but just maybe the way he latched on, I don't know, but I had clogged ducts all the time. And the only thing that I could find that really, really worked with that is to pump and use like a hot like washcloth and kind of like squeeze to get the milk out. Painful, hate it. I also had something called a milk blister with him, which was like the most excruciating thing I've ever felt. I don't wish that on anybody. So if you have a milk blister, the pain doesn't go away, but it is intense. And then I experienced something with him that I had not experienced with my other ones, and that's when he started teething, he would grind. And when you have a nipple shield, you don't necessarily feel that, but when you don't have a nipple shield, like, oh my gosh, that pain was so freaking bad. It was like he would like literally just like go like this with like his gums, and he had like little teeth popping through, and he got teeth super early. And I like completely had to change like our latch. So instead of like cradle holding, I like literally had a football hold him to nurse until he stopped nursing at 15 months. It was insane. Between my 4th and my 5th, I actually got pregnant while I was still nursing my 4th. They're 21 months apart. And I will say that it was very painful once I was pregnant. And I didn't really know why it was getting painful at first until I realized I was pregnant, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. So I probably only breastfed for about another like 3 weeks after that. And then I was done. And by 15 months, I was basically only nursing like 1 time a day anyway, so it wasn't anything like substantial. It was just kind of like either a morning nursing session or a night nursing session. So I did breastfeed in public. I am not well endowed. I don't really have much to show. So probably the first couple of months when they like pull off a lot, I did use like a milk snob cover or something like that. But once they got older, I didn't even use a cover. I would just barely pull my shirt up, latch them on, pull my shirt down over their head. You couldn't see anything because I like literally have A-size boobs when I am nursing. So you would have to look really, really, really hard to see something. But breastfeeding in public, I feel like does get easier over time. With my 2nd, I was really nervous to breastfeed in public, so I would usually pump a bottle before we would go out, and that was just so much work. So the more you get used to it, the easier it becomes, and it's not even like a big deal after you're used to it. So that is my breastfeeding journey. I hope that you enjoyed it. It was different and the same with all of my kids. There were some similarities, a lot of differences. It was a great bonding experience with my kids. It was something I look back on now, and I love the memories. I will not say that I miss it, and that's only because I had 2 under 2 as my 4th and 5th kid, and I basically was pregnant, nursing, got pregnant while I was nursing, and then was nursing again. So I didn't have my body for like 4 years, and it feels good to kind of have my body back. But I hope that you all enjoyed this video. I kind of like sharing like my experience that I've had thus far with all of my kids. If you guys like this kind of content, please be sure to let me know in the description or in the comments below. And also, if you have any other video ideas or things that you would like me to maybe like share, let me know in the comments below as well. So with all of that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.